Hello, 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 hello. Alrighty. Are you using speaking services to fill your private practice with ease and intentional effort, or are you just speaking for the sake of speaking? I want to talk about something that I see a lot of mental health therapists do all the time. And guess what? I used to do it too. It is that speaking is not necessarily a problem. Of course, I wish there were more mental health professionals taking advantage of corporate contracts, government contracts, grants, partnerships, all the things beyond their therapy practice. But the problem that I see is speaking with intention. So, speaking isn't the problem, as we know, but speaking intentionally is an area of concern. I always tell people I don't speak to hustle, hustle, hustle. I actually want to work less. I actually don't even want to work per se. But it's not about hustle, 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 or being louder or being everywhere and doing all the things. It truly is about what aligns with where you are right now in your career as a mental health professional. Here's the truth. Many of us don't want to give up our private practice. That is the honest truth. I love the flexibility and the nuance that it offers to sharpening my skills, my modalities, and how I educate people about mental health and the transformations that can come out of it. But I want to spend the next few minutes of talking about how you can use speaking services, paid speaking services, to fill your private practice with a little bit more ease and the intentional effort I hope that you consider it for. Here's one thing. I really, really want to invite you all stop accepting speaking engagements that do not fill your caseload or that does not funnel additional business to your overall system. So stop choosing speaking engagements or accepting them if they're not filling your caseload or give a return of more aligned clients. And so I want you to just stick with me here because daily I see mental health therapists panicking panicking due to not having a full caseload, struggling financially, and continuing the strategies that just are not keeping pace with where the trajectory of the mental health therapy and the mental health field is going. I'm all about networking with my fellow clinician. I'm all about teaching them how I like to receive referrals. I'm all about going to conferences that are for mental health professionals. However, there it's often not a strategy when being in those places or having those relationships because many of us are hitting the same roadblock. People are not seeing us, and we are not putting ourselves in places where our clients can see us from a bigger stage, a bigger space, perhaps at their workplace, wherever. We're used to clients finding us on a directory, getting a referral from a clinician, word of mouth if you're active on social media. Those are all great things. However, we are leaving one impact untouched and also income unclaimed. I'm going to go through a few areas and I just want you to consider them. So I want you to look at what a lot of mental health therapists are doing. Look around you, look on your feeds, look on your threads. What are they doing? They are saying yes to panels. They're saying yes to workshops, yes to conferences, and these look good for the gram or whatever your social media platform is. There is nothing wrong with speaking, but the disconnect comes when this does not repeat, when this does not transfer. And so the disconnect has many people in an ongoing chokehold. You said yes to all of those things. And also, I have a lot of thoughts of if you are going to say yes to being a panelist, understand how to best connect and tell your story. Tell a story that's going to resonate long after you leave that panel. Many people speak on panels and they look at the host, they don't engage with the audience, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Because here's the reality. Yes, you're the expert. Yes, you can ask the questions, but are you positioning your responses for a return? When you're facilitating workshops, are you giving enough information where people can fully understand not just, oh, you taught the topic, but can they see themselves in your stories? You're saying yes to conferences when no one has a desire to refer or to work with you after because they don't even know who you are before you got there. Again, Nothing is wrong with speaking, but what's the intent behind it? Many therapists treat speaking for exposure. That's necessary. Visibility to elevate your voice, to help people create transformations. So exposure is absolutely necessary. However, exposure is not an infrastructure that will drive additional people, partnerships to your ecosystem. And you all have likely seen me post or talk about your ecosystem. And so I'm a mental health professional at the core of my brand, at the core of my ecosystem. And from that, I have several branches, pillars, how I can serve people that make sense for what I have to offer, how I want to see their lives transform. And so my ecosystem as a mental health professional, licensed one, looks like speaking services. Under speaking services, my header is I'm a keynote speaker. I can do corporate trainings, organizational trainings. I can speak to colleges. I can speak from the lens of an athlete, not the one that went on to be great and have all of these successes, but the one who had injury after injury after injury. And so I tell my story through that lane of athleticism. And so my ecosystem includes courses, trainings for other mental health professionals, teaching them how to secure corporate contracts that will change their lives for the better. And so your ecosystem is made up of a lot of individual parts, not operating in silos. They all connect back to the core of that system of who you are and what drives the information you share, the services you offer. Okay. The goal is for us to have more independence, not be burning the candle at both ends, not burning ourselves out, not stretching ourselves too thin, and definitely not exhausting our capacity. We are at the time where we need to be evolving our capacity. We got this much time. This is what we talk about. This is what we want to be known for. Why are we doing anything outside of that capacity? That's extending it. And when we recoil, it hurts. It's painful. It's exhausting. So again, nothing is wrong with speaking, but the dilemma comes when most of those speaking engagements don't lead anywhere. Okay. And here's, as someone that speaks hundreds of times a year, many times a year, there are some speaking opportunities where they might be one off. They might not do additional business with you. You might not get any therapy clients from the audience. That's okay, but we don't want um, all of our pipeline as speakers to look like that. And so the dilemma becomes when those engagements don't lead anywhere. They don't bring clients into your practice. They don't create follow-up conversations. They don't build momentum, but they can create visibility. That's one piece of the pie. And so what I see as a response, therapists sit back, they're confused, they're frustrated, angry, scared about why their caseload is not consistently being full month after month or year after year. I do want to normalize some of this because here's the thing, y'all. Before I became a professional speaker, I too experienced these things. But I learned very quickly how to reverse engineer speaking to benefit my private practice. Because remember, not all of us want to get rid of our private practice. It brings us joy, and it's a way that we feel connected to serve, especially if it's through a liberated lens. And so remember, therapists are saying yes to panels, awareness events, free talks, paid talks. But the event ends, the applause happens, and then nothing changes from all the energy and effort you put into that opportunity. So we see caseloads, they're still inconsistently being full. And I have seen throughout all of the therapist groups I'm a part of, engaging and connecting with other clinicians, you can be in the industry 25 years. But if you built your caseload, perhaps on insurance, we know there's a lot of sticky stuff happening with insurance. You have got to think strategically of how you're going to pivot. If you are a private pay, here's the reality. Folks will deprioritize mental health therapy faster than they'll deprioritize any other priorities. That is the truth. We're in a time where you have got to be visible in front of a group of people versus one-off targeting, hoping that someone lands on your directory profile, hoping that it spoke to them. It is important that you start building your practice where income can be predictable based on the opportunities you have lined up. Have goals going into your conferences if you're on a panel. Be intentional about what you're going to say. A lot of them say, don't sell, don't sell. You don't have to sell. You just have to tell your story, tell a story that people can see themselves in. And also through that story, you are telling them, and this is how I approach this differently, beyond this speaking engagement, beyond this corporate contract. When clients come to me, A, B, C, and D. It is important that you think about how your energy is spent without any return. I know you all are tired. I see you. I see you. The takeaway from that what just came to my mind was visibility without a pathway is just exhaustion dressed up as an opportunity. Visibility without a pathway is just exhaustion dressed up as an opportunity. As someone that travels around the world speaking at all types of events that have corporate clients in Brazil, London, Canada, other places in the US, I refuse to invest all this energy into serving an organization where one, a partnership will not be extended, or I don't position myself for a partnership to be extended, put it that way. Or I am not getting clients who I know perfectly align with me as a therapist. Of course, y'all don't want to go in saying, "Oh, I'm gonna talk to you about therapy on the side." You just want to position yourself as someone that also provides therapy. It is ethical. The unethical part comes in when a company hires you. You're there to do a certain job, and you worried about this on the back end. That's why you have to create your systems on the back end. So if people go find you, they've already experienced you. They've already heard you teach. They've already heard you talk. We don't poach on other contracts, but positioning and visibility is key. And so when you all think about, okay, well, how do I reframe speaking? How do I reframe this? Let me actually check over here. I'm streaming on 4 platforms. So if you see me looking other ways, that's what I'm looking for. And so when you all think about, okay, well, how do I shift, reframe speaking as an infrastructure? An infrastructure is a system, it holds, it builds, it grows. In this next season, I need you to affirm you will break that cycle of investing all of this energy, all of this great wisdom, and nothing happens after. I need you to commit that you will break that cycle. Okay. This means choosing stages that align with your actual clinical expertise. This is how you create ongoing partnerships. This is how clients are excited to find you. So one of the things I created for an opportunity that I have coming up for mental health professionals is it's called the Private Practice Pipeline Alignment Calculator. It literally walks you through of how to determine, does this align with where I want to go? Additional work with this organization, or is my ideal client in that audience? What is the likelihood that I can speak to someone in that audience and we can continue beyond the stage? So this means structuring your message so that people will recognize themselves in it and want to work with you. Y'all ain't got to pressure, folks. This is no gimmicks. This is intentional effort way before you hit a stage. When therapists choose to speak with your pipeline in mind, taking a client from here to there and all the steps in between that eventually gets them to work with you. When you approach it with a pipeline in mind, your speaking services, everything changes from your impact to your income to the independence you get to have because you're not tied to got to get from this speaking engagement, got to, do all these marketing things. And here's the truth. Many of us have very small teams. I rather learn how to do it for myself before I delegate it because many people don't know what you're delegating. So what if you said to a speaking engagement within reason or what if you said it to yourself, I wanted to do one thing. So before you say yes, ask yourself, can this speaking opportunity create a clear pathway back to your practice, your consulting services, your training services, not just for exposure, not just for the good vibes, not for this is good for the brand. I need you to shift that mindset. Speaking is not just for exposure, it's not branding. Speaking is an infrastructure that will help you grow and evolve your business, your livelihood when it's done so intentionally. When we think about the infrastructure, I think about a dam. A dam is an infrastructure that's designed to let large amounts of water in or keep large amounts of water out. Sure, historically, we have seen one of the biggest dam breaks, no pun intended, in history with a major hurricane. That infrastructure was designed to do its job, but it was not attended to, it was not checked on, no one followed through. And as a result, many people lost their lives and they lost everything that was meaningful to them. I see that also happening not on a that degree of a tragedy, but on an everyday experience. People are losing their sanity. I see clinicians burning out. I see them losing touch of something that brings them so much joy because there is no infrastructure that creates flow back to you and away from you. When we have a flow, there's a predictability that comes with it. We went into something with intention. And when we can predict things or have good insight of the likelihood of something, that is how we get to evolve our capacity versus expanding it beyond our control. So if I think of a few examples, I always like to give examples versus this pie in the sky. And so when we lead with intention for our speaking services, it can look like a lead generating keynote or training or workshops. Are you putting yourself in the space where decision makers realize that their staff needs more beyond what you spoke about in that training, keynote, or workshop, beyond your experience with the initial transformation you gave them? You came to do a job, keynote, train, or workshop. But as you are speaking, are you leaving room for decision makers, people in the room, their employees, to say, we need them back, or better yet, I'm going to go work. I'm going to go work for them. A single talk, training, or workshop paid can turn into additional meaningful opportunities, whether it's a paid training series or therapy referrals, because you named a problem that person cannot ignore that's affecting them, and a decision maker cannot ignore they need more insight. So you can use your speaking services as a lead generator for additional work or therapy clients. Number two, consulting. Perhaps you speak about burnout, capacity, inclusion and belonging, culture, compassionate curiosity and communication, whatever your thought leadership is, what you want to be known for, what you can speak about with your eyes closed, not just speak about, but help people create transformations around. So, through a consulting lens, someone might be in the room that recognizes the issue is structural. That's not a personal issue, that's a structural issue. So, they ask for your support and saying, we don't even know how to navigate this. We just had a massive layoff. Our people need us to direct them. Consulting is tell me what to do. So that conversation becomes a consulting opportunity. And when you do a consulting opportunity, perhaps you put together a package where perhaps you become a direct EAP type service by providing clinical services through your group practice. A third example of how you can intentionally position your speaking services is you can do strategic planning sessions. Perhaps the message that you have helps leaders see what is not working or needs improvement strategically. They want help mapping out the next steps. So perhaps you're invited to a strategic planning meeting at maybe a board retreat, a leadership retreat, a manager's retreat, half day of work, whatever it is, because you already understood the landscape of their organization, the psychology, you understand it, you understand the human behavior. So they just need help strategically adding those things into a plan to fix something that's not working or to address something that needs improvement. A fourth example are the direct referrals for therapy. Perhaps you are speaking, and I get this all the time. Look, when people come up to me and they say, sis, that story you shared, that's my story. Are you taking new clients? Better yet, I'm going to send your information to someone I know that's actively looking for someone just like you. So someone in that room recognizes that their own experiences fit the words that you were saying. Trust is built even before an event ends. A lot of people say, "Well, I got to do a consult for therapy. I got to, show up 10,000 different places." Imagine speaking in a room of 500 people. Many of them fit an ideal client. Sure, you can't take all 500 unless you got a banging group practice, but you get to be very selective. And I know many people are considering the switch to private pay. So be intentional about the organizations you speak in. If you want to work with someone that's private pay, be realistic about who likely can afford that and where do you speak for those people who likely have that stream of income. And here's the thing, I do not squash on people who have insurance based practices. Our people with insurance still need great quality care. But when you are speaking intentionally, figuring out who's going to be in that room, what type of organization is this? Who else have they partnered with? You get to build trust way before an event ends. And as you are on that stage, already have your system set up. So if someone says, "Oh, I really want to work with you," here's the thing, you go to this link or whatever, hit this QR code, and it already positions them to submit an inquiry to work with you as a therapist. So they ain't got to be searching for a therapist later. They can reach out to you directly or ask, can you give me a referral if you're not taking new clients? So a relationship can begin with understanding already what's in place and making that transition to therapy feel natural and easy. So those are some of the examples. Speaking to training, keynote workshop, it sparks recognition. Leaders get to recognize or realize that staff need more support. Follow ups can become paid opportunities in addition to referrals. Speaking to consulting, you name a pattern in the room, and someone realizes the issue is a systemic issue and structural issue versus a personal issue. That conversation can become consulting work. You have invested years and years into your education, but yet we shrink ourselves because the word corporate or organization comes up. Here's the reality, we understand human behavior and people. They're waiting for you to remind them of that. Speaking to strategic planning, you talk about burnout, capacity, culture, inclusion, belonging, communication, relationships. Decision makers want help. And well, how do we actually apply this into our strategic plan to go from A to Z? So you're being invited into the planning conversations, okay? Not the post conversations. Speaking to leadership, you can do intensives for leaderships. Executives want to know, how can we slow down? They want depth, not just another talk. Speaking to boards, I can go on and on about what that looks like and how that can be a funnel into your private practice. Remember, none of this requires you to quote unquote sell, ooh, the S word, from the stage. Only intentional placement of who you are beyond a speaker and how you transform lives. Make your stories intentional, where you get to honor both capacities without overstepping or engaging in unethical behavior beyond the scope of the contract which you were hired. So as I kind of wrap up my thoughts, I want you all to truly understand of how to connect it back to your private practice. When clients come from speaking engagements, whatever they are, keynote training, workshop, training, I already said that. The trust is already there. They've experienced you in real time around other people, got to observe how do you interact when no one's watching. Your consult calls can feel really different. I see so many mental health therapists, they say, "Well, I spend 30 minutes a call just to make sure that they're the right fit." For me, I don't do free consultation. I don't even do paid consultations for therapy anymore. Many of my clients come from seeing me speak, engaging in a training I have done. And here's the reality, it's not a dual relationship. You happen to have seen them in another environment. There was no professional agreement. They were there for a conference, a workshop, a training. So be very careful in how you entertain those conversations. That don't mean I avoid people because what if they become a therapy client? I want you to see me in the community. I want you to come and talk to me before you reach out to see if I'm a good therapist for you. And as you think about how to connect it back to private practice, when they've already seen you, you've already engaged with them in a small degree. Your sessions might feel more aligned because they already know what you're about. This is how many clinicians can fill their caseloads without scrambling. Okay. It directly impacts your life because I don't do the whole panic marketing. You can do less of that, or actually none of that. You can have fewer last minute scrambles to fill your caseload. Maybe your family want to go on vacation or something like that. Perhaps you didn't plan for it. If your pipeline is being filled because you are actively speaking intentionally, it works for you. You get to have more of a choice in who you work with and more space to actually live your life. If you notice what all of these things have in common, they lead somewhere. They bring work back to you. They create a continuity of support. They turn speaking into infrastructure. At this point, I hope your eyes and your mind is open. Many therapists are stuck wondering why their practice feels so fragile, why their income feels unpredictable, why every slow week at certain periods of the year, summer, holiday time, why it triggers anxiety. But if we looked really, really close, oftentimes the systems that can drive solutions to those problems, they're detached or there is no system. Specifically, if you're a speaker, you have no system attached. And I'm not saying this as an outsider, I'm in it. I'm a clinician too. So I've watched therapists give powerful talks, and I'm shouting hallelujah and amen. It hit me, and then disappear into the referral roulette because there was no pathway to keep working with you, no next step. There was no discreet sales talk. There was no intentional bridge from the room you spoke in to the private practice which you show up in. This used to be me, but I had to ask myself, how can I reverse engineer speaking, which is my primary business, and private practice is my supplemental. Speaking without a pipeline is expensive. It costs effort, it costs energy, and emotional labor without little return. Seen it, did it, witnessed it. I want you to keep in mind, not every stage is the right stage for you based on additional goals you have. Income is great, but impact and that independence of keeping that private practice going, not every stage is the right stage for you. Not every invitation deserves a yes. So be very intentional. So if you are at the point where you're like, okay, I want both to marry very well, speaking and practice. If speaking doesn't support your private practice, it might be a distraction or not the best use of that opportunity. So I tell you all of this to invite mental health therapists to the private practice pipeline webinar. I'm offering 2 classes. One, January 5th, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Central. And the second one, Sunday, January 11th, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Central. It's called the Private Practice Pipeline. I don't want you to just speak for more, more, more. I want you to speak differently and intentionally. Choose rooms where decisions are made. Structure your messages that make people recognize themselves in it, where you can create ethical and aligned ways for conversations to continue way after the applause ends. When I have seen therapists do this, everything changes. Your caseloads get filled with more ease. Your clients already trust the process, trust you. Your consultation calls can feel more grounded in your expertise versus this fishing thing for argue the fit. Get away from hustling the referrals. Get away from discounting your services out of fear that you won't get any more clients. As a result, you can stop feeling like rest can cost you income. This is about being intentional. So, are you treating speaking like an infrastructure, or is it just taking away energy? Do your speaking services support your private practice in a way that you enjoy? I want you to think about that. What would change if every speaking engagement had intentionality behind it? What would your practice look like if your message did more of the work for you? So, if you are a mental health professional, preferably a licensed mental health therapist, I want to invite you to join us at the Private Practice Pipeline webinar, January 5th and January 11th. You get to pick which class you want to come to. Cost $197. So think about it. Drop your questions, tag a few people. I hope to see you there. Have a great day.